Hey guys, how's it going? Happy Sunday to all of you. I am actually going to be making more of a serious video today. So, if you follow our blog or you're friends with me or you just know somehow, we have a transgender child. She is 5 years old and her name is Callie. She is male to female. And despite all of the efforts we have made of making you guys and everyone out there aware of what it means to be transgender, I honestly feel like I am failing at it. So let's back up. I met a guy who had custody of his two little boys, and I had my daughter. So we always joke they were triplets because they were twin boys, meant a girl, and they were born one day apart. Just always said they were triplets, brought them up that way, and I have two twin boys now, and I'm dressing them alike and making them do all these boy things together. Well, not really making them, but encouraging. And we started to notice that Noah, which is what Callie's name was prior to her transition, would gravitate towards all of Brooke's toys and everything. We were just like, oh, at the time they were just two, and we were like, oh, it's okay. Like, they'll grow out of it. He'll be fine. Like, it's just a phase. It looks inviting. It's the soft pink color, and she has like these soft toys, and they just look fun. And he's a little boy, and he's gonna play with them. Whatever, we're fine with that. So, fast forward a few more months. He's now 3 years old, and dad's in jail, and don't want to get into details of that, but dad's in jail. I'm raising two little boys and my little girl, and I'm trying to find the balance of how I be a mom to boys versus how I be a mom to my girls. Well, my girl at the time. And it was just difficult, and I was blaming myself for Noah being so girly because just he would go to all the girl things and just play with all the girl things. And it wasn't until I met Jason that I thought maybe there's something going on. Because Jason he still has them, two boys of his own. And Hunter, my son, oh God, so many technical things. Callie's twin brother, Hunter, would play with his boys perfectly fine. They'd do whatever and play in dirt, and they're playing sports and everything. And there's little Noah, like, creeping over to the girl's side. Like, we'd set them up with an activity and just move over to play with the girls. And, Jason and I thought maybe it's because he was brought up by me. He sees it more comforting to be with girls. I don't know. And we just kept brushing it off until one day Noah wanted to wear a dress out in public. And by this point, he's almost 4. No, still 3, which is almost 4. Anyway, by this point, we're just like, maybe this isn't a phase. Like, it's getting more and more aggressive, and it's becoming more and more constant. It's not like one of those things where your kid is obsessed with, like, Play-Doh for a few months and then they grow into, like, baseball or something. We had this little boy who was trying to communicate with us that something felt wrong in his body, and he didn't have the ability to express it yet. He was still too young to just say anything. And we would get corrected with pronouns. No, I'm a she. No, I'm a she. We try to do whatever we could to make this child comfortable, and it wasn't working because we didn't know what we were doing. We didn't have any idea how to treat this child. And it took us forever. It wasn't like we woke up one day and we were like, our child's transgender. We should go out and buy them new clothes. That's not what happened. It wasn't because I'm very for gay rights, which I am, that I decided I need a transgender child to help me advocate for these issues. It was just strictly that this is how my child was. And it was getting intense. Around that time, Jazz Jennings was on everything I can think of. There were YouTube videos, there was a TV show, there was this and that, and this, and a children's book was in the works, and I was watching I Am Jazz with all the kids were in the room, and Jason was there, and Callie or Noah, whichever one. I can't decide which name we're going to use for this story. I'll say Noah because it was Noah at the time. Noah just looked at me and was like, "Mom, that's me. That is me." And Jason and I just kind of looked at each other like, "What's this kid talking about? Like, that's very clearly not you." And again, we just kind of brushed it off. We were like, "Whatever, kid, you're crazy." At this point, Noah was wearing dresses out in public, was growing his hair out, and just, we were starting to use the female pronouns, and it was just a very weird case of, we have this child we're still calling a little boy, and we want him to remain a little boy for our own selfish needs because we like the dynamic of our family and how many kids of both gender we had, and it was just perfect, and we loved it, and we didn't want anything to change. Well, that 4-year checkup changed everything real fast. There's nothing like going into a checkup with a child and not coming out with that child. That is a situation that not many people have ever had to deal with. And I can tell you right now, I will probably never have to do it again, because I now know what it looks like to raise a transgender child, and I could probably notice, like, the moment my kids start saying something if they're truly transgender. And the turning point was when our pediatrician was talking to us, like asking us the things you get asked when you take your child in for a well-being checkup, and we did mention, he's very aggressive about what he wears, he's very, like, adamant that he is a girl, and we just went over all these things. Our pediatrician's a great guy, and he sat down with Noah and said, "Noah, can you please draw me a picture of yourself?" Noah drew a little girl with long blonde hair and blue eyes that was wearing a pink sparkly dress. And I will never forget that moment. I will never forget the moment that I looked at my child and I was like, I am forcing you to do something you clearly do not want to do, that you clearly are being affected by, and I feel like a terrible parent right now. I felt like as a parent I had failed my child because I was not, I don't want to say caving into their needs, but I was not giving them the attention they needed and what they needed to succeed. I was forcing my child to be someone she, at that moment, I realized, Noah is a girl, she is not. And I just looked at the pediatrician, I was like, well, what do we do? And pediatrician was just like, well, I want you to take your little girl on a shopping spree. And that's what we did. We went straight to Target and we're like, okay, Noah, you can pick out whatever you want to wear. While we were shopping, Noah looked up at us and said, I want you to rename me. And that's why we were up till 3 in the morning renaming our child Callie. And it was just crazy whenever you have this happen to you. I bet 90% of you have not had this happen to you, but if you ever do, there is no correct way of re-announcing the birth of your child. There's no way you can just tell your family, we got rid of Noah and we got Callie. There's no way to say it. So we struggled with how we were going to do it. Most, like, our close family and friends knew what we were going through. Like, our parents knew that we were going through this. Some of my coworkers knew. Well, a lot of my coworkers found out at that moment. Just a handful of friends knew that we were taking Noah to the doctors and we were going to mention this. but none of them really knew to the extent of what happened, because until now I have never shared all the details of what happened with Noah. And it really just irked me when my little girl, who finally was being seen as a little girl, went to pick out a doll, and someone who worked at Target, no longer works there. Target, thank you very much for taking care of this issue. Someone who worked at Target at the time had the nerve to tell me that it was because of my parenting, that it was because I forced gender roles on my child, and that I was the reason my child was transgender. That's like looking at someone whose kid has cancer and telling them that they're the reason their kid has cancer. There is nothing we could have done to prevent this. There is no way we could have prevented our child from being themselves, except by making her wear those boy clothes I put on her every single day. After hearing the news that my child was transgender, I went straight to work on researching the crap out of this. I learned that the suicide rate is over 50% for children who are not supported by their family and friends. And that fact right there alone told me I had to do this for my child. I had to do it. I didn't care if I was going to lose friends. I didn't care if I was going to lose my job. I didn't care if my family would disown me. All I cared is that that little girl out there knew she was loved and supported. Because honestly, I go back to this quote all the time. It's a quote that so many transgender parents use. Would you rather have a dead son or a living daughter? And when I said that to Jason, he looked at me and was like, I want both, but it's not possible. We can't have both. We may want a living son and a living daughter. That's what he meant by both, not that he wanted a dead son, by the way. You might want both to be living, but they both can't be living. You can only choose one way or the other. And we chose, obviously, we want a living daughter. And anyone who has a problem with that, I'm sorry if my life offends you. I'm sorry if how I'm choosing to raise my child offends you. But you're not worth it. You're not worth me risking my child's life because you have some obsession with hating people. We're all different. We were learning about Jesus, obviously, in church today. And they got to the point of talking about the attributes that Jesus Christ has. And one of them was he is unjudgmental and never judged anyone. He would literally walk up to whores and talk to them like an everyday person. If Jesus is able to do that, why aren't you? Why aren't you able to look at my child and see that they are an amazing, beautiful person? And yet you have this weird, twisted thing where my child is going to rape yours? My kid's 5. She doesn't even know what rape is. Thank God she doesn't. She is more obsessed with getting the latest and greatest Barbie doll and somehow getting a pet unicorn. She doesn't care about anything else other than that. But she is affected by what's said. She's affected by every single comment that is made to our family. She is probably the most affected by the comments, obviously, because 9 times out of 10, they're about her. And that hurts me as a parent, to know that my kid is sitting there and she is learning to read and she is learning that people say mean things about her. Not her specifically, but people like her. She's learning that people have boycotted Target because transgender people are allowed to use their restrooms. I don't want her to live in that world to think that she's the bad person. I've had times where she's come to me and said, would it be easier if I was Noah? And honestly, no, it would not be easier. I'd have to worry that she's going to commit suicide. I'd have to worry that she's going to be depressed, that she's just not going to succeed in life because she's so upset about being portrayed as someone she's not. And that's not the kind of life that anyone should live, let alone a little girl. I want her to be a little girl. I want her to be free. I want her to go to dance lessons and enjoy it. I want her to do all these things, and I want her to feel okay and comfortable about them. Now, reel myself back in because I got myself all worked up about that. I want you guys, as a human race, to do me a favor, though, to help out this little girl and kids like her. Accept them. They're not going to do anything to you. Yes, there's bad people out there who may be transgender, but I've met a lot of terrible straight people. I've met a lot of terrible people who claim to be Christian. I've met a lot of terrible white men. Do you see me like swearing off all of them? No. I embrace them because obviously they need someone to like care about them and pray with them and for them. And I just think of all these kids who are out there unsupported and like being raised as a gender they're not. And it hurts me. And I do want to touch base on this because a lot of you have, not a lot of you, but a lot of people who possibly are watching this have told my family that there is no way Callie can know she's transgender. When did you realize what gender you were? I can think back. I was about 3 when I realized I was a girl. Maybe younger. I don't have that good of a memory. But I was definitely 3 when I realized I was a girl, my brother was a boy. I realized it, like, I don't know if my parents necessarily told me, but I definitely realized I was a girl. Is there, like, an age that you finally, it hits you and you realize your gender? No. But it has been proven that you realize your true gender, so not the gender you were assigned, but the gender you identify with, you realize that between 18 months and 3 years old. So when she was 2 and showing me these signs, she knew what she was saying. She knew the difference between Hunter and herself. She knew what was going on. And it's crazy to me that people seem to think I like held my child at gunpoint and I was like, you're going to wear a dress and you're going to be happy, because that's not what happened at all. Not in the slightest. I just provided girl toys and boy toys because, like I said, I had 2 boys and 1 girl, and I loved that dynamic, but I love the dynamic of having a child who is happy and healthy in her own body and her own mindset. I love that 5 million times more. I would give anything to have that feeling all throughout my life. And I might be able to have it, but it starts with all of you guys accepting each other. Not just my kid, not just Jazz Jennings, Caitlyn Jenner, or anyone else out there who's transgender or gay or whatever. You need to accept people. This seems fitting because Martin Luther King Jr. Day is coming up. I always tell Callie that, this guy named Martin Luther King Jr., he had a dream that everyone would be judged by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. And I realize he was saying that about African Americans. I do realize that. But I feel like the part where he says content of my character, that embraces everyone. And I do have a dream that one day his dream comes true, because I really and truly don't think it has yet. Although we have our first troll president, so maybe it has, I don't know. Okay, on that note, I gotta go. Bye, guys.